Hello, hello, hello. My name's Sam and welcome to my channel So Let's Sparkle with Sam, and it is episode 4 of the Sewing Bee. So yes, this is my Sparkly Sewing Bee Synopsis, episode 4, Mexico week. I have my trusty notebook ready. I've got my iPad so I can remember whose is whose, and I'm all ready to tell you all about episode 4 of the Great British Sewing Bee. So if you haven't watched, nip off, go and watch it now. Come back. If you don't get to watch, then hopefully I'll be able to bring it to you wherever you might be. So I do try and put as many of my own screenshots in as I can, just as reference. And yeah, so sit back, relax, grab yourself a cuppa. I asked Mr. Sparkles, I was like, I need a mug that's like Mexican inspired for this week, and he was like, this one. So this is the one that I've got. I do love this mug. This mug was gifted to me by my very good friend Mandy from Make It So thanks Mandy, cheers. Anyway, I'm trying not to go off on a tangent. Let's talk about the Sewing Bee. So Mexico week, they had a guest judge. I love it when they have a guest judge because it's nice to know other people's opinions. Who was the lovely Erica, and I totally cannot remember her surname, but I will pop it across the screen. And she was the Mexican expert, the Mexican judge, and she's a Mexican fashion designer. And I loved that she said that all the thing that you need to do to be a great fashion designer is be unique and sew from the soul, design from the soul, which I thought was lovely. So she was along for the whole of the episode, which was really lovely, because sometimes when they have the guest judges, they just come in for a little bit, but it was that she was there for the whole of the show, which was really lovely. Now, a little special mention before I go on with the rest of the kind of challenges is I squealed a little bit last time when I saw the sewing room and saw them all come in, and Heather was wearing a star waistcoat. Pop a picture up here. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I've got to find some fabric that's just like that. I think I've got a couple of patterns that would be perfect, and I've got to make myself a starry waistcoat. So yeah, so that if anyone knows of any fabric that is like that, it's the star. I've had chambray fabric that's got smaller stars on, but not that size star. So if anyone finds any, let me know, because I need to make myself a starry waistcoat. And of course, put suggestions for patterns down, but I think I've probably got a few up my sleeve, as it were. But yeah, that was fantastic. So well done, Heather, on an excellent taste in waistcoats. Just thought it was brilliant. So let's get on with the pattern challenge. So the pattern challenge for this week was traditional Mexican folkloric top. Yes, a folk top from Mexico. And it was lovely, really, really simple. They had a pattern, but I'm not entirely sure why they needed a pattern, because it was 2 pieces. So it was a rectangle of fabric and a facing. So basically you have a long piece of fabric, you pop all of your designs around that long piece, use the facing, and then that's your neck hole, fold it in half, and then sew up the side seam. So I'm not entirely sure why a pattern was needed, but they had a pattern, which is always helpful. And the back and the front kind of, is the same, but then the way that the ribbons they put on is up to their interpretation. So, and it was made from a Mexican recycled cotton fabric, and meant to be a kind of loose fitting top. And it was really, really beautiful. So yeah, and I just thought what I liked most about this challenge, as I do all of the challenges, is that as we get further and further into the competition, the thing that I like to pick out is people's styles, people's tastes. And once we get to this kind of point in the competition, I think I've kind of got a good handle on everybody of what they're going to do and what they're going to pick and what colours they're going to put together and how they're going to kind of go about things. I just find that really interesting, kind of the way that the competition goes on. So we'll start with Anna. Now, Anna pinched the beige fabric away from Lewis faster than you can say, I don't know, some kind of tequila. I was trying to think of a Mexican margarita, I don't know. And yeah, she was super fast to that. And I'm really glad that Lewis didn't end up with another beige thing. So she stole that fabric and let her kind of the creativity come across in the ribbons that she chose. Now, it was really interesting because the judge, you could see the look on the judge and Esme's face, because, you know, they had faces just like mine. They can't lie. And you could see what are you going to do with those? They don't look like they necessarily go together. And they were a little bit worried, I think, about Anna's taste level, but they shouldn't have been worried at all. And I wasn't worried at all, because actually the way that she put them together was really quite clever. And I really love Anna's taste level. I think it's really nice. Yes, they were all very different. She didn't stick to a colour scheme, but it was all very lovely. And the way that they went together was beautiful. I thought her spacing was very nice. Yeah, it was a lovely, lovely make. So that was really cool. Oh, excuse me. I'm swiping the wrong way on my iPad. So next we have Emma. Emma kind of had a pale purpley colour, and then when, of course, she went full on Emma. I don't think I've seen Emma either on the show or on Instagram in kind of any colours that don't punch you in the face. I think she would be great to join in the lovely Beck's new challenge this month, which is So Bold. I have got another video coming out today, so if you're watching this, you get double whammy Sammy. You'll be getting this video and then you'll be getting my So Bold video. Please don't ask me how we've managed to get 2 videos on one day, because I signed up and then Sewing Bee was announced, so hey. But yeah, so let's carry on with Emma. I mean, everything in Emma's wardrobe would be, anything that she made would be eligible, I think, for So Bold, because she loves that kind of bold prints, bold fabrics, and it was no exception with her bold ribbon. And I really like this one. I thought it was really lovely. I love the fact that she went really wide at the top and then kind of a bit narrower and then narrow, right, where other people had kind of gone the other way. And I like, I don't know, there was something about framing it that with the big wide ribbon that I really liked. I thought that was gorgeous. Rebecca, of course, Rebecca went pink. Of course she did. She went pink. She loves pink. She's a pink girl. She went pink. And I think her choices of ribbon was beautiful as well, and very Rebecca. And again, this is what I like to see. I like to see the sewers' personalities coming across in their makes. It was very beautiful. She'd done very neat mitered corners. I'd have to say, I'm not sure that this would have been my best challenge if I was in here, because mitered corners, I have a love-hate relationship with mitered corners. I can do them, and sometimes they turn out chef's kiss, and sometimes they turn out like dog's dinner. So yeah, well done everyone that did beautiful mitered corners, because, you know, you have my respect. So then there was Heather. Heather, bless her heart, she straight away, she kind of did the, oh no, I've done this wrong. So where you put the ribbons around the neck, like the head hole, if you like, the neckline, the idea was to have the ribbons at the front drop to the waist and the ribbons at the back to stay close together, so it kind of like looked, you know, they were like falling down. And what Heather had done is she'd done them all equal distance, so it was all kind of very much all up at the top rather than all the way down. I actually quite liked it. It was sewn well, but again, it's, you know, in the pattern challenge, it's listening to the instructions, following the instructions to the letter, and doing what the instruction says. So did I like the top? Absolutely yes. Did she follow the instructions? Probably not. So which was probably why she was a little bit lower down in the ranking, but I did really like it. Then we'll go on to Adele. I loved Adele's kind of deep, kind of pinky purpley fabric. And then, bless her heart, she decided, again, because it's very much her style, she saw this gorgeous lace trim that looked like it matched really beautifully, which it did. But with lace trim, and again, I would definitely have messed this up. It stretches and it kind of, and I actually think she did a really good job of getting it on. I thought it looked really, really lovely, but it is a difficult thing to get absolutely right. So yeah, so they were looking for that precision, and it perhaps wasn't as precise as they wanted it to be, but I did think it looked rather beautiful. Beth's was lovely. I think that Beth had done this really thoughtfully. It was, you know, I don't know, I get the impression sometimes, not that I think there's any cheating going on, but I get the impression sometimes that like Beth gets more time than everyone else. And I don't mean that in that people, like, they give her more time. I don't know, I think in maybe Beth's world goes slower than everybody else's world, because Beth seems to be quite good. It's something that I'm not very good at, as being very considered with her time. You know, I think her time management is very good, which is brilliant, it's fantastic. And yeah, and it was just the way that she'd kind of come across a problem. The ribbon that she wanted to use was, it was going to not be the right size. So instead of panicking, she just cut down her other ribbon. And actually what she ended up doing was making something that looked really, really good and really kind of precise, because she'd thought about it. She'd still followed the instructions. She was exactly 5 mils away, but, you know, in using a technique that she'd made it work, she'd made it work. And I love that. I think, I really, really enjoyed that. Yeah, I think, she did very well. So then there was Minnie. I'm now really worried that people think that they let people cheat on the sewing bee, and I know that they don't. So I'm having a panic. Minnie, I really loved Minnie's purple one, which was beautiful. Now I have to say, because of the ribbons that she chose, I really liked Minnie's, and because of, it was very precise, it was very Minnie, but they took it apart a little bit by saying that it kind of wasn't as kind of exciting, I guess, than the others. But I actually thought it was really nice and it did the part. However, she did the same as what Tim had done, and I believe another one of the sewers did this as well. And when they put the facing on, in the instructions it was said to put the facing on first and then do the top ribbon. And Minnie was one of the ones that did not do that and forgot to do that, and I think that was perhaps one of the reasons why she was a little lower down the ranking. That brings us on to Tim. So Tim did that, and then also I think Tim perhaps hadn't had a lot of experience of doing kind of mitered corners on ribbons, and did find that part of it a bit tricky, although I did think, again, it looked very considered, and I did like the top that he was finished with. So that brings us on to the sparkly scoreboard. So at the end of the pattern challenge, there was Tim in 9th place, Minnie was 8th, Heather 7th, 6th was Adele, 5th was Lewis, 4th was Rebecca, 3rd was Emma, 2nd was Anna, which meant tip of the top was Beth at number 1. So yeah, that was the pattern challenge. So after the pattern challenge was the transformation challenge. Oh dear, I promise you, it's only tea. Yes, so they had to use traditional Mexican oilcloth tablecloths. Oh, that's a mouthful. So the oilcloth, the plasticky, ones that are wipeable. Everyone has them at their grandma's house, and you use them for picnics and barbecues. the wipe off tablecloths, normally very bright colours. We've had a couple in the past. I used to have them when the kids were little. They were great for when, you know, you had all of the paints out or the Play-Doh out on the table, because you just wipe it down. I've never, however, thought of making a dress out of one. But after seeing the episode last night, I might see if I've still got one somewhere and see if I can, you know, make myself something. So they had to make a sculptural garment, and I'm going to be honest with this one. I mean, I think they all did so well, because they were just amazing. You know, not in a month of Sundays would I have come up with like any of those ideas. I think this one would have really got me. I don't know what I would have done. So yeah, I have no idea. I just think, well done, Sparkle's star to everyone, because it was absolutely amazing what they came up with. So yeah, so let me go on one at a time. Adele. Now, I'm going to be really honest with this one. I loved Adele's. The judges didn't. I just thought it was fantastic. It was bonkers, but the whole challenge was bonkers. It was yellow and it had puffball sleeves, and yeah, I mean, the models, you know, if it was actually on a model, whether the model would have actually been able to get her arms in or not, but that's never stopped them before. So I just thought it was just utterly ridiculous in the best way, and you know, it was giving off like rubber duck chic, and I just loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. The judges didn't, but hey ho, you know, we all have different views. I thought it was fantastic. And then there was Beth. So Beth had done her words, a slinky dress with a hat, with a beret, which came across a bit kind of shower cap, because, you know, it's made of plastic. And so her kind of dress concertinaed kind of, you know, in a way, and it was very sculptural and it was very fantastic, very reminiscent of her plastic bag outfit, you know, the way that the sleeves were from last week's episode. She'd kind of used those skills. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, really creative. Thought that was lovely. Yeah. And it reminded me, it reminded Patrick of flying saucers, which, you know, those like little paper sweets, the edible paper with the sherbet in the middle that make you go like that when you eat them. Just me. And but it reminded me of like, yeah, I think slinky was, but like more of like an accordion. That's what it. Yeah, that is the international word for accordion. That way up, it's jellyfish. But yeah, it reminded me of that, and I thought it was fantastic. Then there was Anna. So Anna pinched the tablecloth that had all of the little blue circles on, which I thought, again, if I'd had to like give them out into the people that I thought were going to pick them, that's the one that I would have given Anna. And she made really good use. So the rules were, I'm so sorry, I've gone ahead without telling you the rules. They were allowed one tablecloth, no more than one, which again was great, because I think, like, you know, limiting them sometimes makes for a better challenge. And I'm glad that they were only allowed to use one. But they could use fastenings, but they couldn't use any trim. So Anna used zips. So she matched the colours of the zips in the colours of the fabric. And I'm telling you now, if the sewing the oilcloth is anything like sewing vinyl, which I've done quite a few times, sewing a zip in into a vinyl thing is not for the faint-hearted. It can be quite tricky, and she put zips everywhere. Thought it was fantastic. And again, Anna, like Beth, she just seems to have more time than everybody else. She seems to be really good at her time management, and I think that's going to get her quite far. So yeah, I thought that hers was lovely, and it kind of, when I first saw it, I wrote down in my notes Christmas tree shaped, because it kind of went like that. That was the sculpture. But yeah, looked absolutely beautiful. Brings us on to Rebecca. guess what colours Rebecca's was? It was pink. It was pink gingham, floral, girly, fan. It was fabulous, darling. It was absolutely lovely. She did like a pleated bodice, and then it had a kicked out skirt, and again, the amount of work that she'd done at the time I thought was absolutely fantastic. And then Heather's was green gingham. I have to say, with Heather's, it was probably, out of all of them, it was probably the one that I felt didn't have as much kind of sculpture as some of the others had. I felt it kind of more, it kind of followed more of a traditional line. I mean, I'm talking about traditional clothes out of oilcloth. It's very difficult. It's very. I'm always going to be positive. I'm always behind the bees, and I never like to do a negative comment. But you have to, when you're reviewing, you have to kind of critique. So sometimes just trying to find things is actually really, really difficult. But for me, it didn't have quite so much wow as some of the others. Pretty much making up words now. Then there was Tim. Tim's was fantastic. See what I did there? I mean, it was just loads of fans. He'd made lots of kind of fan flowers, and just stuck them all on kind of like cocktail umbrella style onto the dress. Wasn't one of my favourites. I just felt it was, again, saying too much when you're talking about, vibrant red oilcloth tablecloths in Mexico weeks, probably. But yeah, it didn't feel perhaps as cohesive as some of the others, for me, personal opinion. Then that brings us on to Emma. Emma did the fan circles as well. I really liked hers. I think I liked hers because it was green. As soon as she picked up the green tablecloth, I was like, oh, can't wait to see Emma's. I just thought it was fantastic. It was definitely the one that I would have picked. And I really enjoyed what Emma did. Then that moves us on to Lewis. So if you give someone some waterproof fabric, what are you going to make? You're going to make a raincoat or a raining coat, as the judges said, which I thought was fantastic. It was a raincoat, and it was a blue with oranges on raincoat, and it was fabulous. It had an absolutely ridiculously large hood on it, but it does rain a lot in England sometimes. Not at the moment. Doesn't feel like it's ever going to rain ever again, but it does happen. And thought it looked really, really good. Fantastic. But it was bonkers. It was just absolutely bonkers. And I have to say, in the challenge, they put him in last place with it because it didn't have the kind of sculpture as other ones. But, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a really fun raincoat. Then there was Minnie. Minnie had kind of done a ruffle, asymmetric ruffle with a little kind of A-line skirt. It looked really, really fun. I really, really liked that one. That one was definitely, you could see that being worn on a Mexican lady dancing in some kind of festival. I thought that was fantastic. I really enjoyed that one. So that takes us back to the sparkly stuff. Takes us back to the sparkly scoreboard to see the results of the transformation challenge. So we had Lewis in 9th, Adele was 8th, Tim was 7th, 6th was Emma, 5th was Heather, 4th was Anna, 3rd was Beth, 2nd Minnie, and 1st was Rebecca, and she was chuffed to bits. It was lovely. So yeah, and then that was the end of the transformation challenge. So that brings us on to made to measure. So for the made to measure, they have 5 hours and they're allowed to practice at home, and this week was Festivals of Mexico. So any Mexican festival that they liked, and they had to make a colourful costume. And they did actually say colourful costume. And to practice, they're allowed to practice at home. Now, one of the things that I will be Googling later, if anyone knows anything about this, please let me know, is that Beth mentioned that she was going to do the Festival of the Radishes. And I was like, I have never heard of that, but I really want to go. I'd love to go. But she said that she didn't because she didn't think her model would want to be dressed as a radish. Well, I think it's now my dream to be dressed as a radish. So, yeah. Anyone can fill me in on any information on that. I would like to know. I thought that was fantastic. But hey ho. And this is the bit where, what would Sam do? So, none, and I say none of the contestants did the Festival of the Day of the Dead. And I think, I was waiting, oh, someone will do that, someone will. But nobody did. And I think that that's probably where I would have gone. But that might be because I just have limited knowledge of festivals in Mexico. So, you know, maybe I would have done the Festival of the Radishes had I known about it. But yeah, but hey ho, they all, to be fair, I think it was a really tricky challenge and they all did really well. To make a costume in 5 hours is really, really tricky, and I think they all did really well. So we will start with Lewis. So Lewis did a carnival outfit for a man, and it was the white trousers. I'm going to try and put this time, because we've got less contestants, I'm going to put in the show they have the design drawings of what the contestants had imagery in their head for their outfit, and I'm going to put those in as I talk about them, and then at the end, when you get me music at the end, you'll get all of the other pictures. So yes, Lewis went for a male carnival dancer with white trousers, white shirt, and a collar, a red kerchief if you like. And making shirt and trousers and anything else in 5 hours is tricky work. And he didn't quite make it. He just, it was unfinished. It was not quite done. I think he managed to get one button on. He didn't manage to get a neckerchief at all, which just goes to show you how literally had no time, because I mean I would have just cut a square and tied it around the guy's neck, to give you the image, but nothing was on. So I think that Lewis really struggled with time to get that one done. Plus, I'm gonna say it, was it colourful? No. No, because the only colour that was going to be on it was the red kerchief, and it wasn't there. So for me, I was like, oh, I think I would have forgiven Lewis the absolute world if it had just had a bit of pop of colour on there. But you know me, I like colourful things. So then we go on to Rebecca's. Rebecca's was a gorgeous outfit with a gathered blouse, gathered skirts, lots of ribbon, lace trim, and then the blouse kind of had a featured panel on the top. And I just thought it was absolutely, and I am not going to say the name of the festival because I will just butcher it entirely, so you'll have to read it on on the designs. I'm not going there. So that was fantastic. And it did remind me, lots of imagery in your head of those kind of ladies dancing, and it kind of, it definitely took me there. I thought that was very beautiful. Then we're on to Beth's. Now, I really liked Beth's. I mean, I always like what Beth does. I really loved this. Hers was all about a festival about horsemanship. So obviously it had quite a fitted bodice and then a long floaty skirt. The idea that the skirt can kind of be draped across the horse's flank so that you can kind of ride in it. I just thought it, you know, that it was just a little bit different. Although I was very disappointed that we didn't get radishes. It was pink, red, green. The colourway was amazing. It looked great coming down the runway. She'd kind of popped, you know, like the flowers, the cut out flowers that you can get. She popped those on and she put them on in a very interesting way. Thought it was beautiful. One of the comments was that the ribbon looked a little bit last minute. It probably was, because they only get 5 hours, but I love the ribbon. I thought it was really lovely, and the dress wouldn't have been quite the same without it. So I'm very glad that it was there. That brings us on to Emma's. So Emma, she had a outfit inspired by the Saint Cecilia festival. I do apologise if I'm going to get some of these wrong. They are very, very difficult. And it was definitely very Mexican looking. She played with her love of music and the music in the festival, and of course Emma is a singer, and they had like musical note lace. And again, I just love seeing the contestants' personalities in, which I thought was gorgeous. It was like fiery, you know, it looked like they had literally been instantly burnt at the stake. And Emma did actually make a comment. She popped something on her Instagram this morning as well about, you know, which of these women would have been burnt on the stake. I mean, I definitely would have done, crazy lady that I am. I thought it was fantastic, really cool. Another thing that we were treated to this week was something that I did know was possible. So the lovely Sophie Willen, who is the host, she treated us to some of her beatboxing, which was quite phenomenal. She has a real talent, but I already knew that she had that talent because she showed us that talent on Taskmaster. So if you ever get a chance, if you're bored one day and you think, oh, what have I got to watch, then, you know, Google that, because it's very funny. She does it with a wolf puppet and it's hilarious. It will make your day. That brings us on to Minnie. So Minnie did a Mexican Independence Day outfit, and she had like the lovely sequins. You know, the sequins where if you stroke it one way, it's one colour, and if you stroke it the other way, it goes the other colour, and it was all red and green and lovely and sparkly. I absolutely loved it. She had like a trimmed blouse. I thought that the work that she'd done on the top of the blouse was really beautiful. Kind of all came together, looked really nice coming down the runway. Her model looked fantastic in it. Yeah, it was really lovely. Then there was Anna's. Now, when I first saw Anna's, when she was talking about the design and stuff, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. When I first saw it, the first thing that came into my head was like American cheerleaders. There was something about the like cheerleaders more than the kind of Mexican festivals. And I think that the reason for that was in the length. And she'd done that length on purpose. That was the purpose of it, that she would do like a mini version, because obviously doing all of that trim and all of that hem in the time. And we all know what happens to contestants that, you know, try and do it and then don't get things finished. It's very risky business. So she went for a shorter one. And although it was sewn beautifully, the zip that she'd got in, everything was lined up beautifully, but I think there was just a little bit about the length of it that made it not quite as festival as it perhaps should have been. And that would have been solved by putting another layer on, which can make it sound really easy. You know, I'll put another layer on. Yes, they have 5 hours. And that was another Mexican Independence Day inspired festival outfit. Which brings us on to Adele. I really liked Adele's. I think it was absolutely beautiful. And I think I would have happily worn it as well. I love the fact that Adele's model looks a little bit like Adele, because I think Adele makes things, you know, that she would like to wear, and I think she would look absolutely amazing in that. I hope that Adele at some point, when she gets her box of goodies back, all of the things that she's made, I hope she gets to wear that, because I think she'd look absolutely beautiful in it. And it had beautiful trim. There was a little bit of a disagreement about whether the rainbow trim was necessary. Well, you all know how I feel about that. if it's not finished, don't stick a rainbow on it. I love a rainbow trim, so I thought it was lovely. Yeah, really, really beautiful, and yeah, gorgeous. And I have actually got another picture to show you of like the inspiration for that, because there was a few of the ladies that did that inspiration. I think it was something like Chia Pineka. Again, may have got that wrong, but absolutely beautiful. Which brings us to Heather's. So Heather's was inspired by the same festival as Adele's, but just done in a slightly different way. And what Heather had done is, instead of spending her time on the trim, she spent her time on the gathering, and she let the different fabrics do all of the work. And I mean, boy, the fabrics, you know, they were just amazing. And she's got a real eye for putting them together. And she did say that when she was in the fabric shop, the fabric shop lady thought that she was mad. I think I would have loved Heather to come into a fabric shop I was in. I would have happily helped her choose all of the florals, but maybe not as made as good choices as she'd done. So yeah, it was really, really lovely. Really enjoyed that. Which brings us on to Tim. So, oh, Tim. I love Tim. He's great. Bonkers great. In the best possible way. So when his design came up, I was like, oh, it's like what Elton John might wear. Very camp, very Tim, very fabulous. Lots of feathers, lots of florals. But it also looked like the carnival dancers that they'd put the picture up. So I thought it was fantastic. And I think Tim had done a really good job. He made trousers out of stretch velvet in 5 hours. There was a little bit of a fitting issue, but I let him off that one due to the fact that the amount of work that had gone into it. And yeah, it was absolutely fabulous. Thought that was brilliant. Right now, I'm going to hand you over to the lovely Baby Sparkles, and he's going to let you know his thoughts on Mexico Week, episode 4.
Hi everyone, it's Baby Sparkles here for another recap of the Sewing Bee. This week was Mexico Week. I enjoyed the made to measure challenge this week quite a lot. I thought the festival outfits were very, very cool. I really liked Tim's. I think Tim kind of pulled it out of the bag. He just sort of really expressed himself very well. Made something really flamboyant, really cool. And I do think Heather's was absolutely by far the best. I think that was a very well earned garment of the week. And then pattern challenge and transformation challenge, I think Beth and Anna are just proving that, like, technically as sewers they are just the best. Two best. They're very creative and they're very good technically. And yeah, I thought the tablecloth challenge was quite cool. Mum, every time she presents me with a fabric, asks what I think it would be a good fabric for, and I always say a tablecloth. So yeah, now we gotta turn in tablecloths into other things, so we'll see where that goes.
So that was the made to measure done, and the episode was finished, and all they had to do now was pick their garment of the week and send someone home, which is always incredibly sad. So the garment of the week this week went to the lovely Heather, and I thought it was it was hard this week. I think there would have been a couple that would have been my winner, but I think Heather was a very, very worthy winner. And she was delighted, and it was so lovely hearing her talk to her mum on the phone, and her mum was as proud as punch as she should have been. It was lovely. And then sadly someone had to go home, and it was Lewis. And I think even Lewis felt that it was his time to go. He'd had a lovely time. He'd done such a good job. So well done, Lewis. Thank you so much for your lovely dry humour and your love of beige that I will remember. And I hope to see you do well in the future. So yeah, so that was another lovely episode. I'm really looking forward to next week, which is Sports Week. Wonder what will happen there. I did see some fabric that I know really well in the kind of little sneaky peek that you get. So I'm really looking forward to next week's episode. So I hope you've enjoyed hearing all about my thoughts from this week's episode of the Sewing Bee. I'd love to see you back again, so don't forget to give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit those notifications if you want to see every one of my Sparkly Sewing Bee synopsis. And you can always, if you've missed any, you can always hit the playlist down the bottom. So all I've got left to say now,
don't forget to sparkle.